Hey everybody, welcome to DBS Films Podcast. My name is Kellen. With me as always is my brother Brendan, and together we make movies with DBS Films. Today's episode, we're going to go ahead and dive into what we are expecting with the actual launch and release of our 11th feature horror film, The Forest of Death. As always, we make movies for our fans, with our fans. If you want to get in on that action, you're going to have to go ahead and join our Discord channel. We post all of our auditions, all the behind the scenes, all the fun stuff, along with a lot of other cool stuff going on there. So be sure to go ahead and join that. Now, in this episode, as I mentioned, we really just kind of want to highlight what we're expecting with the launch. I think this is something that a lot of indie filmmakers simply, whether it's the fact that they're too tired, they're out of money at this point, they're beaten down, all of this stuff, they almost kind of pass it off. A lot of times they think either a distribution company or someone is going to basically pick up the baton and carry it for us. But this is honestly, this is when the rubber meets the road. This is go time. So do you want to talk about the importance of a release, specifically that first window of getting traction on the algorithms?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, you put all this time and effort and money into a movie to, be lazy when you market the movie, and when it releases, it could literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, we are ready to go with this one. All the ads and creatives and all the cool stuff that, we need to do to push this thing is completed. And, we're going to rely on the DBS Army to, give us that little extra boost to get us through the finish line. And the first 30 days on Amazon, on pretty much all these platforms, is absolutely crucial. If you fail to launch, essentially, you're going to cost yourself a lot of money, and that visibility is gone. For the first 30 days, these platforms will give you visibility, and they want to have the hottest new released movies rising up the charts. And after 30 days, they're going to drop you off, and they're going to let other movies come up. So not only is your launch extremely important to get that, initial boost, the initial visibility, the initial cash flow back, but your tail, how much you sell down the back catalog of your movie, or the later months, is also determined by the launch. The higher your movie goes, the longer the tail is going to be. And all that stuff is super critical, super important. And we spend a great deal amount of time on making sure these movies are, the easiest movies to market. So we've already split tested the title, the cover, and the blurb. And also that we have all our platforms and all our channels, and how we're going to push this world out to the, or push this movie out to the world when it becomes born. That takes a lot of time, but it's all ready to go. We're just waiting for, to pass QC, and then, start to pop up on these platforms.
Yeah, we're very excited for that. I will say, again, this is something where I think it's the biggest lacking element that we see with a lot of indie filmmakers is, they get a movie, but they don't quite understand this. And I think it also comes down, this is our 11th feature. So I think that's one of the reasons why we understand this process more than ever. With that being said, though, this is the first time we're going with the aggregator route, in the sense of getting the movie up and onto the platforms versus actually working directly with a distribution company. So for those indie filmmakers out there, you have a few options. Do you want to go ahead and break down the difference in how we're launching this before the ones that we've launched before? Because that's kind of the one wild card for this one. This is the first time we've gone a different route.
Yeah, you usually have two options. You have distribution, you have aggregation. And I think for first-time filmmakers, I would recommend distribution. Pending you pick a good company. There's a lot of distribution companies out there that, they're not shady, but they're going to do what's in their best interest when it comes to negotiating your contract. Just make sure that you're capping your expense fees, and that you kind of understand, the ins and outs of the contract that you're signing. Because distribution is a business. They will try to get themselves the best deal. So making sure you know how to negotiate these contracts is absolutely key. But distribution companies will kind of will guide you through that process. The other one is aggregation, which is what distribution companies use to get on these platforms. So we've chosen to negotiate these deals ourselves with these platforms, and to send our movie off to aggregation. and kind of bypass that middleman. The difference being that we get to keep the that cut of the royalty that usually distribution companies will take themselves. The downside is it's a lot more work on our end. We are handling everything internally. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that juice is worth the squeeze. The good news is that we can be a little bit more faster, and we have access to more data through aggregation, because that information is not going through a distribution company and then to myself. It's just between myself and the aggregation company and the different platforms. But there's always pros and cons. It's going to be a new system. It's a new, learning step. And I don't know if we're going to, be able to use it moving forward, or if this is going to become, I'm hoping it becomes the DBS norm. But, distribution companies command that slice for a reason. They have ins with all these companies. They do meetings with a lot of these companies. They can negotiate better platforms. They can negotiate better placement on these platforms. And with an aggregator, they're saying, give us a file, let it pass QC, and then send it off there. There's not a lot of contact that I personally have with a lot of the platforms as far as placement, which is going to be interesting to actually see how it turns out.
Yeah, it really is the case where, there's a lot of unknowns of how much that distribution company really is making those connections. And I mean, to me, it makes sense. If I'm an AVOD platform, do I go with the ones that someone just uploaded, or do I go with the ones that has their own QC, has their own quality control, the product you're getting from the distribution? So that's kind of the wild card for it. But I would say in this episode, we're really going to try and hop into just what we're expecting from the launch, what that process looks like, give you guys a little bit of insight. We're already starting to prep the Discord for it. We have our Forest of Death launch team going. We're going to have a lot of really cool, fun stuff for when that actually happens. We are looking at probably the first few weeks of February, just kind of depends on when we get an update. But that's really going to be that big push. We want to try and get as many reviews, as many rentals as possible, as soon as you can, just to really get the trend and get it traction. So, I think that's the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is you need to feed the system. And really what that system is it is a very, 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 very detailed algorithm of what are they watching, who's buying this, who's continuing to watch it. Because at the end of the day, these platforms, Amazon wants to get you movies that you will enjoy. That is the win-win for everyone. That's what the Prime Video system is here to do. And I think this is something that every filmmaker needs to look at doing, is having a community that they can cultivate to essentially get that out there right away. Now, again, it's our community. They love our movies. These are our big fans. So obviously they're going to have good reviews for this just because they do enjoy that. Some of them might have different reviews. I love that. That's my favorite one too, because again, hey, it might not be your favorite for one reason or the other, but the fact that you're getting traction with rentals and getting traction with reviews right off of the bat, that's going to show the algorithm that you're feeding it the right language. And this goes back to what we were talking about building a brand. This is why building a brand is so important, because you can already have our 12,000 person Discord is essentially a very good chunk of what our audience looks like. So if we can have that audience ready to go to watch this movie and review this movie, then we can find more of that audience and thus grow. So do you want to talk about just again how critical it is that we hit the ground running with these rentals, with these reviews? Because every time you're not getting one of those, a new movie's coming out. And if another movie comes out that next day and it's got more reviews and more ratings there and algorithms sitting there, it's going to go ahead and say, all right, you go down, you go up.
Yep, 100%. And I think you brought up a really good point. Not only are these downloads so important, these are downloads from people who love horror movies. So it's training Amazon's algorithm to say, hey, look, a lot of people are downloading this movie right away. A lot of people love indie horror movies. How does Amazon's algorithm now take that information and send it out to other people who like horror movies? It's not like we're getting a whole bunch of, people who like romance movies downloading this thing. Our audience is so targeted that it trains Amazon's algorithm to tell it to find other people who like this kind of movie. And that's how you kind of get that higher click-through rate, the higher sell-through rate. And you really want your movie to be seen by people who want to watch it. If we're targeting our movie to people who like romance, they're going to 1-star the shit out of it. They're just going to absolutely decimate that movie. They're going to stop, they're going to turn it off, and that's going to tell Amazon's algorithm that this isn't a good movie. So being targeted and having a community ready to go is extremely important. And it's going to train Amazon's algorithm to find more horror people. We're going to get the also bots of other horror movies. Yeah, I think, Murder House was up there with like Black Phone, and there were, all that stuff is very synergistic, and it can get a lot of traction, and it helps with your, the long tail for your movie. So you really want to make sure that the people who are downloading your movie are highly targeted. And I think this is something that a lot of other filmmakers don't have, because, look at the first Hateful Eight. It was like, all right, anyone that I know, friends and family, can download this movie. Well, my mom's not going to be watching horror movies. She's watching like chick flicks and, romance stuff. And that's not our target audience. So I think having that stuff is much more beneficial. We're seeing a better launch. We're seeing better success, and we're seeing much more money and revenue coming on the back end because our audience is so targeted. And, the people who are buying the movie are horror fans, and that's all thanks to the Discord.
100%. Having that targeted brand, having that targeted audience, we're immediately showing Amazon this is exactly what we are looking for in the sense of what our customers are and what, we're driving traffic with. So that's going to be one of the major focus there. I think you mentioned this in the episode earlier this week, and this is something we always talk about with marketing. A lot of indie filmmakers come up really short when it comes to marketing. Just to begin with, I would say we are on the other opposite end of that spectrum in the sense that we're very well versed in marketing. Both of our businesses rely heavily when it comes to just being able to market, understanding split testing, understanding ads, understanding how they perform. And I think one thing we're excited with is whether you don't like the title, whether you don't like the poster, the Forest of Death in our poster is by far one of the highest converting ones that we have. So we always mention about how to do split tests. We actually don't name our movie until kind of like the final leg of the race, because we test different names out there. And this is something where when you have that combination of a powerful ad set on top of the community, you're almost looking at that 1-2 combo. So you want to talk about how not only are we going to have the organic in the sense of, or the organic coming from Amazon Prime, we're going to have the paid coming from our ads. And then more importantly, we're going to have the massive support in the cavalry, which is our DBS army. So what element do these ads play in? Because it's usually something you hear about where maybe I should boost a post, or maybe I should do this, where, man, we're ready, we're hyper focused, and we're just going to shoot this thing out ASAP, ready to go.
Well, the paid ads are great because they can bring in a whole bunch of new fans. And that's really what you want to do. You really want to have the foundation of your launch be your community, which is our Discord. But, they're going to download this movie within the first 72 hours. And then, if we didn't run paid ads or have any kind of advertising, it'd fall off. And the algorithms really want that slow kind of build. They want to make sure that no one's gaming the system, because I could have 1,000 bots go and buy a movie, and then it would fall off the next day, and they'll penalize that kind of behavior because they don't want that stuff. They want to make sure that the movie that they're buying or the movie that they're promoting, has that slow, gradual climb. So we have the initial spike with the Discord in our community, and then I run paid advertising so that I can, find new people who are interested in this movie. And that's super critical. But, it started 3 months ago. We split tested the blurb. We split tested the cover. We split tested the title. I know from all these test ads that people are going to resonate with this movie. They're going to engage with this movie, and they're going to give it a chance to watch. And for new fans, new people that you're trying to market to, that's all you can ask is just take a look at this movie, purchase this movie, and take a look at it. And maybe if 10 of them, watch the movie, maybe we'll get 1 or 2 fans. But those 1 or 2 fans, there's a good chance they can become super fans. And those are super valuable. They're worth the couple bucks I spent to acquire them, because this is how you cultivate a business. This is how you grow a business. But a lot of this stuff started 3 months ago. So if you're out here and your movie just launched and you're scrambling to create Facebook ads, to create Instagram posts, to create TikTok ads, unfortunately, it's too late for you. but learn from the experience, learn how to market, learn how to do this stuff earlier, and you will be much more successful next time.
Yeah, and I think again, it's something where it's all a learning phase. And I mean, I even, I look at Gone and the Invite and whatnot. I'm sure you're running some ads there, but I mean, like, this just again shows you why you need to make more movies. Like we have such a large process now that has been established from us building on top of that. Our Discord, I believe when we launched the Haunting of the Murder House, was probably around 4,000 people, and now we're at 12,000. So, a 3x in the sense of the community that we have. And the Murder House launch, and I think this is where I want to kind of go for our next part of this one. But before I do, I do just want to mention, like, you really got to put the effort in. Like, one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to have like 30 different little TikTok videos or Instagram reels where I post. It has a little snippet of the movie. It has the title there. It shows where you can go find it. And I mean, like, I'm going to be posting 30 things a day. Like, it's just going to be pushed out there, get it out there. There's no such thing as too much. I hear a lot of indie filmmakers like, well, I just don't want to bother. No, this is what you have to do nowadays. This is how you really get the traction on there. Because like you said, every one person that we get that can join the Discord that then can become a super fan, it's worth any one of those pushes there. So going back, I think as with everything, it's always good to compare what your last launch was versus this launch is kind of almost like a little estimate to it. I think for the Haunting of the Murder House, I kind of want to review that launch real quick, and that'll set up our expectations for where it's going to go from there. But I think one of the things with that one is it almost kind of came out of the blue for us, a little bit of like, hey, we're going live. I mean, I think we knew it was cooking in there and it was ready to go, but we were right in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign for basically getting a whole bunch of merch for DBS, and then auditions for Into the Forest. So like we were doing a lot of stuff, and then it's like, hey, I remember you messaged me like, hey, it's live, it's time to go. And then we kind of rang all the fire bells, and we were still able to act with it, but I feel like now we're able to go ahead and push it more. And with that being said, Murder House was our best launch yet.
Yeah, I think just a little bit caught on surprise on how much or how quickly that movie released. That being said, because I had done the work 3 months prior, it took a couple buttons to essentially turn on all the paid ads and all the advertising platforms. I think where we lagged a little bit was just getting the community to, engage with the movie as quickly as possible, because they were probably surprised as well. That being said, we've learned from that mistake, and we're going to do a better job this time, which is just understanding that, if you're going to go with the release strategy of not having a set release date, which is what I advise, because getting all these platforms to line up can take 3 to 4 months. Basically, we send the movie off, it passes quality control, and I'm like, first come, first serve. So, when that happens, you don't really know when it's going to come out. Because not only does it depend on when the platform gets the movie, they have their own internal processes. They have people that review this kind of stuff. It could take anywhere from 2 to 90 days, or 2 weeks to 90 days. So you just got to be ready. And we're ready this time. Murder House is a very successful launch. If we can get close to Murder House again, I think it cements the foundation even more. Because was Murder House do people just like that movie? Do they like clowns? Do they like that kind of style? Or do we have the ability to repeat that success? That's the biggest thing, is like, you can make a good movie and you can make a movie that sells, but can you do it twice? And then can you do it 3 times? And can you do it 4 times? And if we can create a foundation for how much revenue these movies bring in, that allows me to scale, to allocate more budget, to bringing on more people from the Discord into these movies, because I have a better idea of, how much, it takes to, or how much money comes in from these movies. For the Shapeshifter, it's going to be our biggest one, or our most, not biggest, but our most anticipated launch ever, just because if we can get this to work, it solidifies the business model. It allows me to scale up, and, it shows that Murder House just wasn't a fluke, that we can actually do this stuff and make movies and get our money back. And that money can then go be spent on, getting more actors and having bigger productions.
100% that. I mean, and again, as you mentioned with the aggregator side of things, we're cutting out kind of the distribution element, which means a higher percentage that we can continue to take in. So we're hoping for it. With that being said, I have faith in our community and the algorithms, hopefully, and that we'll be able to take it up. But I wanted to almost kind of take a look at where Murder House got and then kind of just frame it a little bit. So we got number one, Amazon Prime new releases, and then we were dethroned by Top Gun, which is tiny. I think it's another indie movie, that Top Gun. And then we made it to number 16 on the horror, but we were just having trouble passing The Orphan, which, again, another big name, just shows the power of it. I've been mentioning in our Discord community, I want top 10 on Amazon horror is basically what we're looking for. So we got number one new release, top 10 on horror. We're going to be looking at doing a whole bunch of fun stuff in the sense of just supporting the launch, having it go there. But this is really when we need the team to kind of, come together and just support this, because exactly what you mentioned. I think really what I want to talk about here is in marketing, you understand the difference that those pages make. You understand the difference from 1 to 2 is massive. The difference from 2 to 4 is massive. From 5 to 10 is massive. Those are exponential placements there. If we can crack that top 10, if we can get on those lists because of how much we've put the effort into how clickable our cover is, how good the title is, how good the blurb is, what we did with the trailer, it's going to probably have a very high click through and purchase rate, which is what we were seeing with Murder House. I mean, I think we were really surprised by how well we did in TVOD, which is the transactional video, when it comes to actually having our movie out there. So do you want to talk about, again, my goal is going to be top 10. I'm pushing that. If we get top 10, I'm going to be very satisfied. Again, we get top 16. Again, I'm going to be really satisfied. I know the team's going to do everything they can. My question mark's the algorithm, but you want to just talk about how the difference is. The way I look at it is this top 10 list, if we can crack that, is the difference between us casting 5 people and casting 50 people if we can continue to do it.
100%. And the difference between the first spot on Amazon and the 10th spot on Amazon could be magnitudes of thousands. And that could be just an absolute game changer just by hopping up a couple slots. Obviously getting to 15, 16 would put us in range of Murder House. And I think Murder House is an absolute great success. If I could have 1 million Murder Houses, or if I can make 12 Murder Houses, it would be a very successful indie studio and be able to scale up. But if we can get ahead of that, then we really could start to do some damage. And that's when the flywheel really starts to, crank, and we can really get good at bringing in other actors, raising our budgets as far as special effects. All the money that we bring in, we put right back out to either the Discord or the next production. So I think that's the goal. And I'm really hopeful that Shapeshifter can get us to that next point. But I'm more concerned now with just laying that foundation. Can we get the numbers near Murder House so then we can take the next step? But, that's why this one is such a crucial launch is, if we can get this thing up, if we could push it, if the DBS army could, really come through again for us, we could start to really scale this thing up and really do some damage, because Kel mentioned it. We were right up there with Top Gun Maverick on the Amazon top new releases. And to get to that level is absolutely crucial. And it just shows the power of the community, the power of the Discord, but it's also the power of indie filmmaking. And I think that we can hit that kind of next level. And I think that if we do that, we're prepared to scale up. We have better ideas. We have better concepts. And man, I'd love to make a zombie movie. And if you guys want to be in a zombie movie, this is how we're going to do it.
It's exactly that. I mean, again, this is kind of the time to shine and put in all of the hard work and efforts there. But I think the last thing I kind of really talk about, we've been mentioning it briefly, is this is how that snowball works, because it's not only the fact that, oh, wow, we got to this and it'll generate more revenue for us, which is going to allow us to make more movies. but it allows us to build longer term with our community as well. Every single time we release a new movie, that means more people are going to see that. This is the first movie that we have with our super fan Aries. So this is the first time we're basically really leaning into this model, and it just really is going to start to build up there. So every single time that you do release a movie, the better result it has isn't just the monetary factor, it's the fact that DBS Films gets its name out there. And I think something we've always mentioned is, one of these movies we make could be that surprise home run, could be that movie where you get a call that says, hey, I'm from this studio, I'm from this production, I'm from this platform, we love what you guys are doing, would you want to have a conversation or something like that? And then next thing you know, we're off to the races with massive budgets, massive movies, and things like that. So every single one of these is almost like that lottery ticket. And the better a launch we have, it's essentially like the better your odds are going to be that we could scratch something off here that's going to be a huge winner. So do you want to talk about how not only is it going to be beneficial, obviously, for the revenue side of things? And here's the thing, man, no one comes calling, no one comes knocking. We're not going to cry a second. This isn't we don't need the cavalry at all. We're going to do this all ourselves, no matter what. That being said, would we take some deals if it could speed up and, go ahead and do that? Of course, 100%. So what are kind of your thoughts on, not only is it the revenue ability of it, but it's just general awareness, and it's also the opportunities that could be there for DBS?
It's that, but it's also rewarding the actors for their performances. I think that, even though we are a small indie studio, I think Murder House has been viewed probably over 1 million, maybe probably between 1 million and 1.5 million times. We have 200,000 just on YouTube, on the monetized YouTube channel. Tubi, absolute massive numbers on Tubi, and Amazon Prime have done absolute insane numbers. That is so much visibility for all our actors. And that is really the benefit, is if you come here and you work with us, you do the acting challenges, you watch our stuff, you learn from our stuff, and you get finally in a DBS movie, well, you're seeing numbers that I think some indie movies that have theatrical releases won't even scratch the surface of. And that's a ton of visibility, and visibility as an up and coming actor is probably your most important aspect. Is that if you're auditioning for a new role, you can say, hey, look, I was in Murder House, I was in Shapeshifter. That movie was put out in front of 1 million fans of horror, and the reviews are good, and the IMDb scores is this. And when I talk to distribution companies, they want to know where the sales metrics are and how much does one actor push a movie. Well, go ahead and put down your resume that Murder House was top 10 in, or it was a top 15 in Amazon Horror. That's more beneficial than how many Instagram followers or TikTok followers you have. Those are hard numbers. And for Shapeshifter to be top 10, or to have 500,000 YouTube views, or whatever metric you want to use. I mean, Girl in Cabin 13 was number 1 on TV for a while. That's extremely valuable. So not only does that further our career as a production company, but it also it furthers the career of all the actors that work in our projects. So we're kind of starting to see this synergy of, if you come out here, you work hard, you watch all our stuff, you're rewarding the people who are in these movies, and then there's the opportunity for you to down the road be in a movie as well. That's kind of the flywheel that we want to get going, because then everybody kind of rewards themselves, and we all get better together at the same time.
Exactly that. And I think the last thing I do want to mention there is not only the actors in this, but just everyone who's part of the process now. The one thing, that I really mention with this is we're still in these beta stages. We're still in the early startup phases. And this is when we need your support more than ever. Not to sound like I'm getting cocky or full of pride, but eventually we're just not going to need it. We're going to be so big that we have this engine already to go. Boom, push it. It'll happen. It'll be done. That being said, right now, all the support we're getting, You get a role when you end up launching it in the Discord, so we can basically track everyone who's supporting us, because these are the people who are making our dreams come true here. And not only are we scaling, even if you're not in a movie, you're still going to benefit from supporting us with this. You're still going to benefit from being part of DBS. You're going to be here to be like, I was part of the launch team on Force of Death. I was part of the launch team on Murder House. And to me, those are the biggest badges of honor you could possibly have within our community, because it shows that you are going to be someone who is really helping us push and making this a reality. And again, I think the biggest thing, our biggest benefit that we talk about is this community. And if we have the amazing community that we have, we're going to continue to reward this, because it's only smart. You know, I think one of the bigger things is, as we start doing cooler and cooler things with our community, that's going to be a marketing story just in itself. So it's going to be worth all of the dollar spend that we do for us to do things like a movie premiere in, you know, Las Vegas, and fly people out, have their families there. It's going to make it worth it for us to have like a traveling DBS tour where we stop off at different cities and meet up with super fans. It's going to be worth it for us to do these things, because that is the model that we're striving for. So a successful launch just makes that a reality more and more. And I think the biggest thing that I'm stressing is everyone who's helping out now, it means the world to us. So you have anything to mention to those who are in it? They're rallying the troops just with us. They're getting those reviews. They're renting the movies. They're spamming it to their friends. They're spamming it to their family. They're putting in that work, and all of that work adds up to make DBS a reality.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the $3 or $4 that you spend to just watch this movie probably comes back to us 100 times, because that's another pump in the algorithm that's exposing the movie and the actors and everyone who worked really hard on this project to another person. The Discord naturally is going to grow. These people are going to stumble upon this movie and, you know, see what we're trying to do. And all that stuff is so crucial. It's even more valuable right now, because we're in this point where we're trying to break through pretty much to where Hollywood is. So we're trying to break out of, you know, the dungeon, which is indie film, where we don't have a lot of visibility, where it's difficult to get things done. And we're really trying to solidify ourselves as a studio that creates really good content that sells and that has a big following. And we need that support more than ever right now, because this is, you know, the most fragile time for this company. As we're ramping up our production, I'm spending more money on each movie. We need to see that kind of come back so I can put it into another movie and we could scale up and get better. So the $3 or $4 is so crucial. Just that's, it may seem like a small number, but literally it can come back 10, 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times back. And we're putting all this money back into the Discord, back into the community, back into, you know, the other productions that we have. We're not taking this money and going off to the Bahamas. We are trying to make as many movies as possible with as many people as possible to get more people involved in this process. So I think it's just, you know, the more you guys can do to help us out at this crucial stage, it's just all super, you know, beneficial. And I'm super thankful that we have the Discord community, that we've met all these cool people. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what, you know, DBS has in store in 2023.
It's going to be big things, because we have the most amazing community. And again, it is something that we're here to make movies for our fans, with our fans, and everyone supporting that is what's going to make that a reality. That's going to go ahead and wrap up our episode for today. As always, be sure to take a look at our Discord channel, because that is where the magic happens. That's where you want to be in our movies, to be part of all of this fun. But until then, have a good one.